I want to give a special welcome to the girls who are watching in their living rooms with little toddlers, or some of you who are just staying at home because you couldn't get out. So I want to give you a special welcome with the girls here. And it's exciting that we're all gathered and we're able to come together and just sit around sit around His Word. So, how do you smell? Okay? Have a whiff of your armpits and let me know. I was going to put out, oops. Oh, that's rattling, yeah. I was going to put out little sprays on every table, and I thought actually we might be all coughing and choking with the smells. But how do you smell? Do you know that you carry a special smell? And when I had the privilege of doing smell, I thought this is great because I actually am not very good at smelling. And my husband is excellent at smelling, and some of our members of our family are like Ian, and some are like me. I really don't smell very I'm not very good at smelling things, which has been good when I've raised 5 kids, you know, because I wasn't grossed out with all the nappies, but then sometimes I didn't know they had a dirty nappy. Anyways, so how do you smell? You know, I was reading somewhere that human noses have something like 5 million sensory cells. I think it was something like that. I don't know how they worked that out. Did they count 5 million? I'm not sure. And then apparently a dog has 300 times that amount. So a dog has a huge amount. And then if you look at a bloodhound dog, the ones that go after things, they actually have 600 times more than a normal dog. Okay, and then I was just finding all this information I found was really fascinating. But some of the best ones in the world, the polar bear can actually sniff out a seal 20 miles away. Can you imagine that? And also a polar bear can sniff out a whale's carcass, which is 60 miles away. So imagine a whale has beached itself in Dundee, and if a polar bear was in Aberdeen, he would be able to sniff out that smell in Dundee and follow it. I mean, how amazing is that? It just blows my mind. And I just can't believe that. And it says here that the polar bear's sensitivity in his nose is 3,000 times more sensitive than a bloodhound dog. So all these things that Google tells you, you know, so it's quite amazing. Personally, I don't have many, like I said, and some of us are blessed with great smells and some aren't. So how do we smell? I quoted Helen Keller the last time, and Helen Keller, who was blind, dumb, and deaf when she was born, says smell is a potent wizard that transports us across thousands of miles and all the years we have ever lived. Odors instantly cause my heart, she was saying, to dilate joyously or to contract with remembered grief. And smells can do that. Smells can actually, stir up all sorts of emotions. So there's 3 things I wanted to talk about before we get into it. And I was thinking of the smell of nostalgia, the smell of beautiful memories. You know, this is my perfume here that I always wear, Aromatic Elixir. It's Clinique. And the reason I started wearing it was because Ian really liked the smell of his secretary, okay? And his secretary would come into work, and she always had this beautiful smell. And Ian one day plucked up the courage and said, "What is it you wear?" And she said to him, and he said, "Oh," so he went and bought it for my birthday. So he just loved the smell. He's very sensitive nose, and he really liked the smell. So I started wearing this, and actually I really like it as well. So I started wearing this, and it's quite funny. So when the girls were little, they would go off to stay at their grandmother's house in Fraserburgh, and Rebecca would always take one of my scarves with her because she missed me, and she would take my scarf, because when you wear a scarf and this, you've got the perfume on, it kind of lingers, and she would take it with her and she would sniff it at night time because she missed me, you know. And it's funny, when we were in Australia, she liked the jacket I was wearing. She goes, "Oh, Mom, I really like it, and can I borrow it?" And she wore it, and then I thought, oh, I may as well just leave the jacket for her. And she then sent me a text. She goes, "Mom," she says, "after you left, I picked up your jacket and I put it on, and I could still smell you." And you know, so a smell like that can bring up some amazing memories and can bring up some lovely memories. And so the smell of nostalgia, the smell of something like that, you know, you can think I'll just pop that down there in case I knock it over. You can think of, I can remember when my grandchildren were born, and the first nappy, the smell of that mustardy nappy, it just suddenly transported me back to a room in the hospital where I had my first baby. And I remember thinking, it just brought up so many memories of sitting in that room by myself with this newborn baby and that smell of that mustardy nappy, and thinking, oh my goodness, was it that many years ago? And it just evokes things. Or the smell of cooking, or the smell of something, I can remember when Ian's mum died, we were collecting all of her stuff, and I just gathered them all. And a few months later, Rachel took the cookery books, and as she was opening them, she said, oh Mum, I could just smell Granny Margaret's house again. We all carry a smell about us. So that's the smell of nostalgia. There's also the smell of disappointment and hurt and pain. This same perfume I'm about to tell you about is, I was working once, I was doing some supply work many years ago, and I was actually working in a school in Torrey, and I'd left one of my cardigans there, and I forgot all about it, and I went back 2 or 3 weeks later, and I thought, I must go and retrieve that cardigan. So I went in, and they said, what are you here? I said, I left my cardigan in the primary 1 class. So I walked down the corridor, went in, and I said, oh hi, and I was chatting to the lady, and the teacher, and I said, did I leave my cardigan here? And her face fell, and she said, oh, it's your cardigan. And I said, yes. And she said, yeah, I stuck it in that cupboard there, you'll find it. And I thought, oh, she was really not happy. And she said, she said, I didn't realize my husband was having an affair. He was coming home with this smell about him, and I thought it was his new aftershave. And then when I realized he was having an affair, it was the lady's perfume. And she said, when I came into my classroom, I smelt that perfume again, and I sniffed it out, and I saw this cardigan, and I just put it in a bucket. You see, that same cardigan, that same smell that evokes so much lovely memories in our household, was the memories of pain for her, and the memories of disappointment. Many years ago, there was a friend a friend of mine who passed away. She had a triple bypass, and she was knitting lots of jumpers for her granddaughter. Her daughter, who was about to deliver her, produced the first grandchild. And after she passed away sadly, and I remember speaking to her daughter, and she said, she said, when I picked up the cardigans, she said, I could just smell my mum's hand cream all over them, and I don't want to wash them because I just want to always smell my mum. So sometimes those smells can evoke pain, and sometimes they can evoke, lovely memories. And the third one is the smell of tradition. Okay? The smell of tradition. Now, tradition is a great thing. You all have traditions about Christmas. You all have different traditions and that. But sometimes the smell of tradition can actually almost hold you back. When Jesus was talking with the Pharisees, he was like, there's a smell about these Pharisees. They're so rigid. They're not seeing that there's something new happening, that I'm bringing something new here. And they wanted to hold on to their past, hold on to all the religion. Sometimes tradition can almost have the smell of head knowledge, but not heart knowledge. And so sometimes tradition can be really harmful. And so the smell of tradition can be good, but it also can hold us back, And so tradition sometimes brings a sense of comfort to us, and to other people, tradition can bring a sense of chains and holding them back from where they are. So smell is one of our 5 senses, which we spoke about. And I want to just say, girls, spiritually, we also have an odor. So physically we can have an odor. We put on perfume, we put on deodorant, we have a shower, whatever. But spiritually, we also leave odors. And these odors are smelled in the demonic world. Okay? So I can remember many years ago when Mum and Dad came through to Aberdeen, and we had the church was very small and very insignificant, and somebody turned up in the church which we didn't know, and they were very edgy, and they stayed at the back of the service, and they came forward and they said, is there somebody here called John Strachan? And my dad said, actually, that's me. And they said, oh. And they had been part of the occult, and in one of their meetings, somehow this message came out that there was a man in Aberdeen called John Strachan, and he was an enemy of the dark side. and they had to go and curse wherever he was. And they had been going around churches trying to find this John Strachan. And, you know, there was almost a smell that he was leaving that was beautiful to heaven, but it was offensive to the dark side. And so when we realized that, I remember my dad he kind of smiled to himself. He was telling us a story. He goes, oh, he says, that's exciting. He said, I'm actually offensive, so that's good. I'm a bad smell in a demonic world. And so, you know, we do leave a smell and we do carry a smell. And, you know, so I just wanted to say, how do you smell, girls? How do you smell today? Okay? There's 3 simple points I wanted to bring out here, if you're taking notes. What smells make heaven notice? What smells do we do that make heaven sit up and go, whoa, something is happening? And the first one I wanted to talk about, the smell of sacrifice. The smell of sacrifice. And when I was thinking about the smell of sacrifice, there are so many instances in the Bible where we talk about where we know that the smell was pleasing. We think of Abraham and Isaac, you know, and just before it happened, the Lord saw his heart, and that aroma went up, and the Lord intervened. And, you know, we think of Cain and Abel at the very beginning of time. You know, Cain is a farmer, and Abel, the first 2 boys that were born, and Abel is looking after sheep. And it said that they had some sacrifices, and they were giving their offerings to God. But it said that the offering that Abel gave was pleasing to heaven, because he was sacrificing one of his sheep, and all Cain was doing was just taking some of his fruit from his vineyard that he could grow again. So there is a smell that rises to heaven. And the one there's so many smells in the Bible. I didn't realize what an amazing subject this is. You could talk for 2 or 3 weeks on smells. But the one I wanted to talk about was the smell of sacrifice of Mary's alabaster box. And I just was thinking about that. I was reminded of a funny story. You know, I remember hearing this story abroad, you know, about a little chicken and a little sheep that are walking along, and it's the farmer's birthday. And the farmer says, it's my birthday next week, and the chicken and the sheep are having a little conversation. They said, what will we give the farmer? What gift could we give? And they were like, well, he loves curry. Let's make him. And the chicken said, well, I'll make him an egg curry, which is really yummy. And the sheep said, well, and she said, and you could do a lamb curry. And the sheep's like, yeah. And then he thought, actually, the egg curry is an offering, but the lamb curry was a total sacrifice. You see, so there's a difference between offering and sacrifice. And when we look at, it's just a silly story, okay, but it illustrated a good point. But when we look at this here about Mary's alabaster box, I need my glasses on here. When we look about that, I think it was Mother Teresa that said, you can give without loving, but you cannot love without giving. So it's quite easy to actually give something without loving. You know, you can give something to a charity box. You can be seeing somebody and you can drop some money in. You don't have to love them to give that. But if you genuinely love someone, you will want to give them. And so that's what we're talking about. You know, in this story here, you see Mary and Martha. This is just days before Jesus dies. So the story of Mary and Martha and the little argument they had, that has happened. Lazarus has been raised from the dead. So those stories have happened, and this is the last time we meet the 3 of them, and it's just days before Jesus dies. And you know, Martha is in her kitchen with a very different attitude, serving and making a meal, it says. And Mary is there worshiping Jesus, and Lazarus is there with everybody, and he's talking about his wonderful experience. And just in those 3 people, you have somebody worshiping, you have somebody witnessing and telling stories, and you have somebody serving. And that's just what being a Christian is all about, isn't it? And anyways, Mary has this gift, and we all know the story. I don't need to go through all the details with you, but Mary's sacrifice, you know, in those days, if a special guest came to your house, you would have some special ointment, and you would maybe put 1 or 2 drops to just show how you respect them, how you honor them, how you love them, and it would be very, very beautiful. And Mary, of course, takes hers, and I believe that the Holy Spirit has prompted her, and she knows that she doesn't know Jesus is about to die, but she has been She has inclined her ear to the Lord, and he has prompted her to anoint Jesus. She doesn't know why she's anointing him, but she doesn't hold back. With that prompting, she goes and gets this alabaster box, and it said it was a whole year's salary, and she anoints Jesus and she just pours it over, lavishly pouring it over. Interesting that Lazarus died maybe a few days or a few weeks ago. Lazarus has not long been risen from the dead. She didn't go and anoint her brother's body. That's her only brother. Interesting, isn't it? She didn't go and anoint the whole body. She didn't go to the grave with that anointing oil. But she has the capacity now, and she wants to anoint Jesus. You know, and I was thinking back, you know, when the women got up on Easter Sunday to go and take spices to anoint the body, there was no need because Jesus had been risen. His anointing had already happened through Mary's sacrificial gift. And you know, it says in Matthew 26, she has done a beautiful act of kindness to me. You will always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me, said Jesus. When she poured out the fragrant oil over me, she was preparing my body for burial. I promise you that as this wonderful gospel spreads all around the world, you know, in the thousands of years that we're going to follow, the story of her lavish devotion to me will also be mentioned in memory of her. And this act that she gave to Jesus, her complete sacrificial gift, is still being talked about. People still talk about it. And when she poured it out, it had an effect. It wasn't just for Jesus. That perfume went throughout every single room. The whole house reeked of it. It was in the neighborhood. People were drawn to the smell. It was everything she had. A year's wages she just abandoned, with reckless abandon, just anointed him, just lavishly gave it to him, and didn't hold anything back. And I just think it's quite amazing. You know, what smell do we carry? How are we taking our alabaster box of life and willingly spreading it out to where we are? You know, what is a smell we are carrying into our world? How are we loving people? How are we lavishly giving ourselves to them? You know, because that spillover effect, she anointed him, but the effect was for everybody. So everyone, although it was just for Jesus, everyone got to smell it. Everyone had that spillover effect and benefited everybody. And I just had this written down here. If the degree of your love for Jesus was manifested today by way of a scent, what would the room smell like? It really challenged me, that question. How would I smell if suddenly somebody said, okay, the love you have for the Lord, you know, if it was to be turned into a perfume or smell, how would that just fill this room? And it really challenged me, because I thought, you know, maybe I have little moments of that, but you know, I think we can live our life of constantly loving and constantly giving and pouring out, you know, and it's a consecration of sacrifice. And I believe in heaven, when that smell arose, that smell just wasn't in the room. When that smell arose, I think it pleased the Father. I think he looked down and thought, you know what, she's not just obeyed me, she has no idea what effect this is going to have. She has no idea how this act is going to be spoken about for hundreds and thousands of years. She has no idea how people are going to learn about me through this gift. And I think the smell went to heaven. And so that's the smell of sacrifice. The second one I wanted to speak about is the smell of honor. Do you know there were so many different smells? I mean, the smell of generosity, the smell of loyalty, there were so many different smells. I've just chosen 3 of them. And so the second one was the smell of honor. You know, one of the commandments is honor your mom and dad, honor your parents. And, you know, in the Bible, you know, when they said, you know, who are we going to give money to, and what about our taxes? And Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is his. We need to honor the authority. We need to honor what the government says. We need to honor the restrictions. It's funny, today I came in, I dropped something off, and I went and parked in the disabled thing. not the ones at the front, one at the side. So I'll just park there. And then I was reminded of a reading I read this morning about, it was in the Women of Valor, and it said, be respectful of signs. I thought, well, nobody's probably going to park there, but I thought, I need to be respectful. So I reparked my car. So we just need to be honoring of these things, And so honor pleases God. The honor is a scent that goes up to heaven and pleases God. Here's Noah, 100 years planning to build this ark. And he gets together and he has no idea. He's never seen what an ark looks like. He's probably never seen rain. What was it like for Noah to be the only family, the only righteous family in his culture? We sometimes think it's really hard because there's not many Christians. He was the only Christian. What was it like raising teenage boys when they were the only teenage boys that followed that prayed and followed things? So that was what his world was like. And so they get into this ark with all these very stinky, smelly animals. He's got enough food. And the whole story. And then, then the rain stops, and then he just waits patiently until the Lord says, okay, Noah, now is the time to leave. And so he leaves. And something, I thought, if I was cooped up, I know what it was like when lockdown was, when the restrictions were lifted. We're like, let's go visit somebody, let's go and get a takeaway, let's go to a restaurant. We were all excited, we all did things. And the first thing it says that Noah did, if I'd been cooped up with those smelly animals, remember, he's not had a day off, okay? He has worked 24/7 looking after all these animals, and he's opened the door and these animals are running. I think I'd be like, oh, let me smell the air, let me go and have some good exercise. Let me go and do something. Let's go and have a great meal because all of our food has been used up. And it says the first thing Noah did, because when Noah came out, Noah was the same righteous man before lockdown and after lockdown. Lockdown didn't change him. And it says in Genesis here, then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed the burnt offerings. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, and he said in his heart, so the Lord has spoken, because of the honor, because of the smell, then the Lord has spoken. And he's thought, what? This is incredible. This man is so righteous. And the Lord said, never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood, and never again will I destroy all living creatures as I've done, as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. And he made that statement after he smelt the aroma of honor. Noah could have done so much, and he decided the first thing he was going to do, the first thing he was going to lead his family in was, we are going to honor the Lord. He has brought us through lockdown. He has done so much for us. He has given us so much, and let's give back to him. I'm sure the smell of that barbecue was delicious. But the first thing he did was give that offering to the Lord. And the Lord is pleased with honor. He likes honor. He wants us to honor each other, honor our leaders, honor, when we honor each other, then we respect each other, and we have good unity. And I think that is so important. And so that's what he did. God spoke to himself because he smelt the aroma of sacrifice. And I just think, it's so important to remember that, because so often that rebellion I find within myself, thinking, oh, this is ridiculous. This doesn't make sense. And so many things don't make sense. But let's not be the people who decide that because they don't make sense, I'm not going to obey them. Let's render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's. And honor him with your giving. That sacrifice, when we honor the Lord, and a lot of times it's sacrificially honoring the Lord with our tithes and our offerings. Sometimes it's a challenge, sometimes it's really hard, but that smelling beautiful aroma goes up to heaven, and he's pleased, and we can never outgive him. And so as well as having a smell of sacrifice and as well as a smell of honor, there's another thing I wanted to look at, which was the smell of victory, okay? You girls, we are all on a victory parade, actually. We are all part of the winning side. And we have to remind ourselves that we are on the winning side. No matter what the media says, no matter what is going on out there, we are on the winning side, okay? So I'm going to take you back to 1st century. You know, when the Roman army would conquer things, could conquer and invade a country or invade a city or invade things, they would capture all the loot and everything, and they would have this massive parade, and they would come back. And they would have the prisoners, they would all be shackled up, they would take the prisoners, they would have all the gold and the loot and everything. You read so many stories in the Bible, when they captured things, they captured all the good things and they would take them back. And that's just what they did in those days. Okay? And so when the Roman army would do this, they would have this big victory parade, and they would go through the town, and what they did was they would get millions, thousands and thousands and millions of petals and flowers, and they would crush them, and they would spread the streets with them, and as the army walked on the petals, it would give a beautiful aroma. And then the Roman general who was in charge, he had his incense that he liked, a special incense. So that incense would be burning beforehand, and it was an amazing aroma would flow through the whole town, and this beautiful place, and they would march through all the places, and there would be this big victory. They would smell the aroma of success. They would see the success with all the things they had captured. Then they would go and have this huge, big, large banquet, and then they would often do something with the prisoners, you know? And so that's what happened. So to the people who were on the winning side, there was a beautiful smell. But to those prisoners who were chained up, there was a smell of defeat, which was really painful. Just like I said in the beginning, there can be the same smell can have two different effects. And I just want to read this passage here in 2 Corinthians 2, verses 14 to 16. And Paul is talking to the Corinthians, and he goes, "Oh guys, thank you for being so honorable. Let me tell you something." And he says, "God always makes his grace visible in Christ, who includes us in partners of his endless triumph. Through our yielded lives, he spreads the fragrance of the knowledge of God everywhere we go. We have become the unmistakable aroma of the victory of the anointed one to God, a perfume of life to those being saved, and an odor of death to those who are perishing. The unbelievers smell a deadly stench that leads to death, but the believers smell the life-giving aroma that leads to abundant life. And who of us can rise to this challenge?" And he was saying to the Corinthians, you know, there is a smell here, and we are on the winning side. What smell are we giving off? We are not on the losing side. We are on the winning side. And so these victory parades, you know, when he was speaking to the Corinthians, they went, yes, we know what you're talking about. We know what the victory. And he was saying, look, you're on the winning side. Don't worry if there's persecution. Don't worry if hardship comes. Don't worry if criticism comes. You know, when Mary gave of herself and she sacrificially gave, she opened herself up to terrible criticism, and that happened. So I want to warn you, that will happen. There will be criticism. There will be hard times, but we are on the winning side, and the Lord smells that, and he is attracted to that. I want to remind you, Jesus is the general, not the Roman army. Jesus is the general of our army, okay? He is the one who has conquered evil and death. He is the one who has dealt with it at the cross of Calvary, and when he left that tomb, the victory was won. He is in command, and he is going to be coming back to take us home, okay? We are on the winning side. And if you've been traveling with him, you are walking like those prisoners and like those generals. You are walking, and you are crushing those petals underneath your foot, and you are giving off an aroma, okay? And remember that. You send out signals wherever you go. Okay? You send out signals that Jesus is alive, that there is coming a great day when things are happening. You know, the fruits of the Spirit, they are the aroma of our life. You know, is there kindness going out? Is there gentleness? Is there self-control? Is there love? Is there peace? Is there faithfulness? Those are the fruits that we are giving out. Those are the fruits that we're sharing. We had a study on the Beatitudes. What are the attitudes you have? Because that is what we are giving off in our victory parade, you know. And there will be problems, and I just wanted to say, you know, we are on the winning side. So throw the petals, burn the incense, and remember that to spread the sweet fragrance of Jesus wherever you go and however you can. Live lives that please God sacrificially, full of honor, and be part of the aroma of Jesus in this city. He is the one that will find the aroma pleasing. They might not like it pleasing, they might not find it pleasing, but we do it unto Him. We don't do it for ourselves, we don't do it to glorify other people, we do it as a command to honor Him. It says in Ephesians 5:2, Paul is saying, He loved us and gave Himself freely up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. So what I wanted to say is, you know, your caring words, your intentional presence, your sacrificial giving, those meals that you cook to somebody who needs a meal, those times you offer to pick somebody up from church, those things you do, they are all sweet aromas that go to heaven, okay? You're building up your bank account in heaven. They get sent up there. The aroma follows you. And I just wanted to say, you know, I was somewhere and I could hear this little noise and every now and then you would smell something, and then, you know, there's another little noise, and I kept smelling this thing. And in some places they have these little built-in smell things, you know, and you can plug them into your house, and every now and then they'll just give off a little burst of smell, and it just goes everywhere. Let's be those people that have that little burst of smell every now and then, okay? A smell that's attractive, a smell that's like, what is it about you? Why are you different from other people? And you can say, well, actually, you know, we're lifting Jesus up by our smells, okay? So each word, each touch, each helping hand, each listening ear is the fragrance of Jesus. People will only come to know Jesus when they see you and me doing Jesus and being Jesus and smelling like Jesus. Live intentionally and live to see how you can care. So what kind of fragrance are we sending out? Check your spiritual smell, girls, okay? Let heaven smell the sacrifice of love and devotion. Let heaven smell the honor that we give each other and the honor we give our leaders. And be the Jesus smell and the Jesus aroma wherever you are, okay? So that's how we can use our sense of smell wherever we go in this city. And I'm just going to stop there because I see my time is up. But, you know, if you want to linger here and chat with each other about different things, or you want to share other things, that's wonderful. The other thing I wanted to mention for the girls, for the girls online, you know, Kath we're not able to do the hosting live at the moment, but Kath was hosting us beforehand. But we have sheets that we can sign up for, you know, hosting and for hospitality and for welcoming in Sisterhood. And I know you're not able to sign up today because you're not physically here, but if you would like to be involved in this, please send us a text and let us know, and we can include you in that way of serving. Be a sweet-smelling Jesus person in wherever you find yourselves. Have a good week. Keep smelling good. God bless. Thank you.